makes it not that important. But the person was a football player while he was in the university, that's more important than his actual degree. So you have to wait a bit what information you're going to put into this database. The next, what we now start to adding. We're adding a gift history pattern. That's what people are start to looking at adding to it. Not every system does it, but what's the pattern? Where does the person give normally? Does it give to sport? Does it give to science? Does it give general? Where does this person give? You have to try to keep track of that information. We also now have to keep track of all the appeal and fund. Normally there used to be, one faculty, one fund. It's really not like that anymore. Faculty could have many fund and many appeal of when they go out. Basically, you're trying to find out which appeal is more important. This appeal work while this other type of appeal does not work. With this appeal, we raised $1 million. With this one, we barely got $50. So you have to value and what is the cost it made to create this appeal. You send it by mail, by email, which methodology you try to use. Okay, award. Well, did this person never got an award? Did he actually got, a prize or anything we gave him? Event participation. The same thing is how many events this person participate, the same pattern. What kind of event does he participate? You need to keep track. It's all that information we're adding. Promotional item. If you have those big people that come to your event and one day you gave them a pen, the next day another pen, and then you keep giving pen, after a while this person has 100 pens. You need to keep track of what you gave to those persons when they show up to event. Then that needs to be put in there. Social media, that's a new one that started to kick in. I think LinkedIn is a good example of that one. Basically, once you have your list, as the person is on LinkedIn, or if you say, I'm from the University of Ottawa, basically you can go to LinkedIn and ask how many people out there have listed that they're from the University of Ottawa. You may find out that some people out there are not even in your database. And you may also find out that some people out there are, very rich people, which is really what we're trying to target. Okay, let's not flatter ourselves. If you could get a 10 million guy, go for the 10 million guys. That's really what you want. You want that. That's what the goal of this. And anything that could be useful. If you have his Twitter account, that's a nice thing to have. Okay, it's useful. But you don't have to go overboard. If you get to the point where you start putting in there, well, he's got a dog and the dog is called Schmuck, so big deal. Will that help you a lot? You have to also be a bit careful with all that information, okay? If I meet somebody and he comes to me and says, oh, how's your dog? I don't even know that person here. That would freak me out, okay? But that information exists. It's available. It could be in your database, and it's very likely should be some sort of information that is sometimes very personal. Who do we get the information about? Well, basically about anybody we think you could give. Alumni is usually your best source. Alumni are the person who give the best. They're the one who have an affinity with the university, your university. So it's nice to have them all. It's easier to get. Donor, some people, alumni could be donor, but you could have donor that are just friends. They just happen to like the university in your town. They just want to give to it. You have to get to know them and keep track of who they are. Parents. Okay, when your child is at a university, chances are during that 4 year or that time this person there, the parent has an affinity suddenly with that university. Then he's probably a bit more willing, more open to give to that university while his child went there. And if the child graduates, the parent may still continue to give. So parent is also important. Volunteer, anytime you do an event, if somebody volunteer for one of the activity, he could also be a donor. Okay, some people give time, but he also could be a donor. It's worthwhile cultivating. Okay, friend, university, any type of friend you can find. There's many of them that are just there because they believe in the university, they believe in what it does. So it's there. Students, okay, let's be careful with students always. If you put all the student, personally, I say while you're studying, chances are it's not a good thing to go solicit them for money. Okay, they actually want paying you anyway. So student is there, but let's be careful. Student would be more like the people who participate in sports, football, hockey team, volleyball, that kind of sport. You could have them in there, but I probably would not go across every student. And employees. Okay, your employee also are a good source for revenue. At the University of Ottawa, we have something we call a campus campaign, where we go out to all the employee once a year around February, March timeframe, and ask everybody if they could donate to an activity, to a fund, to an award site, an appeal within the university. So it's they can do it by payroll deduction. You have to get into this side of it. So this is basically what we're trying to get, who we're trying to get to. Okay, why are we doing this? I think we briefly talked a bit about it. Basically, because we know that this is very important now. Okay, we know it's going to get more and more important. We used to have 10, 15 years ago, a university that raised $10 million was, hey, you're good, you raised $10 million. Now we're asking in the hundreds of million dollars. Most universities start almost at $400 million when they do a campaign. Anything below that, it's pretty weak, basically, what they start with. So it goes very high. I think the US have an advantage over us because they've been doing it more often and it was more part of their revenue. In Canada, we are starting to do it, so we do not have all the availability of tools that US would have when we go through, but basically it's still something we have to get in there and understand that it's going to be a priority for us. Government's having difficulty, people have, everybody has it, even students have a difficult space, so we need to raise money, okay? You can't rely, in the old days there was this 1, 2, 3 people, they were the good, they were the master of this. They could go out, talk to their buddy, figure out who they are, and knew them enough to know when to talk to them, how to talk to them, and get the money. It was not really a targeted approach. It was more, we need money, we need to raise 5 or 10 million. Those 3 guys goes out, and somehow they come back with the money. Okay. People didn't ask too much more question except, okay, they got it. This guy may have had a file somewhere on his desk or on his little laptop or whatever it was. Okay. It's no longer a one-man show. Okay, to be able to raise 400 million and more, you cannot do it without the planning. You cannot do it with the science. You cannot do it with the technology in the background. Having this one guy goes out and raise 400 million, they don't really exist anymore. You have to have a plan of attack. You have to really define what you're doing, how you're doing it, and it'll probably be multiple facets. Some group go after this, then the group go after the mass. So you're going to have to target your system, okay? And that's where we're getting. You're going to have to start increasing your targets. Who we're targeting, who we're trying to get here, okay? There's still the mass mailing. I'm not saying it's bad, okay, to go out and say, okay, we're going to do a mass, what we call annual campaign here, where we send it to, 100,000 people. We send an email, we send a mail. But those gifts are usually 5, 10, 25, 120. They're usually going to go back to $500. You're going to need a lot of $500 gift if you want to reach $400 million. Okay, if you have to do it within a couple of years, it's very likely not going to happen. You're going to need to do something more. You're going to need to cultivate. So it's got to start somewhere. It's also about being able to better control the data, the key point performance. What we talk about key point performance here, our indicator is, we know this person gave all those years. Maybe it's time somebody go talk to that person. Maybe it's time somebody go, he seemed to give every year. He's got an affinity with us. Let's go talk to him. Maybe he can give more. Let's figure out who he is, okay? Search your database. Maybe there are people in there. That's where we came with figure out your event turnout, the same thing. You keep in drag says, if you're gonna do a sport event, maybe if the person was in faculty of engineering and there's absolutely nothing in there that says you like sport, maybe you're wasting money inviting those people. You can try it, but measure it. So the next time you don't make the same thing. Says those people are not interested in sport. Why send it to them? Just target your staff. You have the information. We'll talk about collecting it later. And improve the contact value. So when there is a contact, make sure that the contact is worthwhile. It's not just the guy showed up because he was invited and nobody talked to him and basically he walks out and he just came in, didn't even talk to anybody, had the free lunch and he left. Okay, there's not much value into this. There's got to be a reason for inviting people, for meeting with them, and have a team that talk to them. Okay, just to go back to the team, just to give an idea, the University of Ottawa, it's actually about 3 department, all under what we call external relation. And basically, we have a development department, which is about 30 people. We have resource information, which is what we're going to mostly talk about, the information we're grabbing, which is about 10 people and staff. And you also end up adding the alumni, which is another 10 people who concentrate really on the alumni. Those three groups really are really targeted to raise money, which is really what we're going after. To promote our alumni, okay? Basically, it's make them feel good. It may be just me, but I think in the States, when people go to university, they seem to be a lot more attached to that university. They seem to bring it with him. They bring it to their work. In Canada, this is not happening too much. So there's a lot of work, I would say, on the alumni team to get that feeling in there that, you know, university doesn't stop when you graduate. It goes on, okay? And that's what the alumni relation has to keep doing, okay? And keep track of them. That's the big thing, is where they're moving. They're not top on our list. When somebody decides that he's moving from Montreal to Vancouver, for some unknown reason, he doesn't feel compelled to pick the phone and call the university, hey, by the way, I'm moving to Vancouver. He's not going to let you know, okay? But chances are he will let Canada Post know, so he can go after, okay? Okay, how do we manage? Before we manage, we've got to figure out what's that data. Well, what is it? What value does it have? Seriously. It's important. We all agree it's very important. We decided that we're going to raise $400, $500, $600, $700 million. We need that sort of information to be able to target our people. We need that sort of information to be able to get to the right group to be able to raise, to find out who is who and who we should talk to, okay? There's a lot of it. For us, about 500,000 records. Okay, and a record is pretty big, actually, because, like I said, for each person, we know which sport they went in, where they live, where they used to live, how they moved, information about their graduation years, what sport they liked, how much their house is worth. Okay, any type of information you can find in the media. We have a team that's called research, and basically that's their job. I have to thank them. They're amazing. You gave them a name, they go out and they come back with tons of information about this person. What he does for a living, who's his contact, is he connected, is he worthwhile pursuing? This guy just bought, you know, 5 million worth of share in a company. Well, obviously this person is well off. So it's probably, and he's an alumni in your management school. It's probably worthwhile to go talk to him. They're saying like that. So it's that information, it's all in there for each record. It's personal data, and we're really saying it's very personal. We were mentioning we got the name, you could have the name of your dog, the name of your wife, your kids. Any information we can put our hands on will be in there. So it's very, very personal. So we'll talk about security, but the last thing you want is that data floating too much around, okay? And discovering that now it's in the newspaper, your local newspaper saying, hey, somebody got it, okay? It comes from many sources. Okay, there's the academic source, which is your Registrar, your HR, sports, okay, research, like we were talking, which is what we find ourselves. And there's also social media. More and more now we start using social media. People will put information on Facebook. Okay, people will put information on LinkedIn. If you get their Twitter account and they happen to have 9,000 followers, you can probably say this person has some sort of pool. There's 9 people who actually wants to listen to what this guy has to say. So if this guy says something about the university, there's 9,000 people likely who's going to read about it. So it's that kind of information you'd like to know, to be able to figure out. It must be kept up to date, and I think this one's a very important one. If the information is out of date or you don't have people who keep track of what that data is, in our case we have a group of about 5 people who actually do a very, very diligent job of make sure we got the right address, make sure we got the right person. The trouble is when you get to 500,000 people, which one do you go after? And that's what your group has to define university. There's no real defined standard at this point. There's no say, oh, you go to this guy, then this group, then this group. We are, like I said, where Voice over IP was 10 years ago. It's starting to have more definition. They're a tool to help you, but certainly there's no basic rule that says this is how you're doing it. But depending what kind of university you are, what kind of resource you're looking, and what kind of money you're trying to get, this is important. That would be your target. You will not be able to get everything up to date. They are a site that's getting more and more, but like I said, they're more US-centric, where you send them your list, and they will send you back their address, their email address, everything they can find. But it's very US-centric. They have a bit in Canada, but usually not automated at this point, and the reliability of it is not as good. Canadian security law is a bit more strict than the US one, so there's a lot of information you can get on a US citizen very easily, while on a Canadian citizen it's more complicated, it's more difficult to get. But those two are getting there. They are starting to come out. There are a few things like Small Act, which is a company that actually advertise how to get that information for you. Send us your list. We're doing it. There are people like QAS who does about the same thing. Send us your list and we'll make sure all your postal address is right and everything, and if they still exist or if they're still at the same place. So they are slowly, we're getting to have that kind of resource that you can rely on to do mass update. But you're still, nevertheless, still going to need a team of people that actually do the targeted update, because those ones have to be sure. When you get mass update, you may get 70, 80% right. Well, the 20%, when you do the targeted update, you cannot afford that 20%. You got to be on those ones. Okay, and it must be available to solicitor. That's where the tough part is. We ask those people to go and meet them, but at the same time we say, well, the data is secure, but we want you to be on the road so you can see what it is because of what the data is. Okay, now we know we got all that data. Okay, it is obvious, I think, for all of us, say, well, where do you put this thing? It's a database. I actually took this from Wikipedia, and it stated very clearly, it's a collection. A database is an organized collection of data. The data is typically organized to model relevant aspect of reality. The trouble with fundraising is the reality keeps changing. So your database has to be extremely flexible. Okay, there's really none out there that will do everything you do. I'm telling you off the bat. Chances are you're going to need multiple products, and we're going to go through the product we're using. But you basically, the base of it is a database, and you got to have the database. If you do this yourself, which is possible, but I never believe in reinventing the wheel all the time, because any change you have to do it yourself. Basically, there are people out there. We're using Blackbaud, Razor Edge. They are Informatica that do something like that. You could probably start using the PeopleSoft to be able to start getting that data also. So there's multiple databases that can get to do this. All of them have their plus and minus. Okay. Okay. That's where we're going to go into what's a perfect world and what is a reality world. Okay. We're university, so we know that getting everybody around the table to agree and swear in a Bible that they will do this usually doesn't work that well. So where we're going to is what's a perfect world. If we had a perfect world, we would have a large centralized database for the whole of the university. Everybody would use the exact same database. The registrar would use it, the sport would use it, faculty would use it. This way, it's pretty nice because it keeps up to date. When a student needs to register, it's there. When anybody get information, they update the information, and everybody get the latest updated information. Well, we know that's not reality. Most university register has its own database. Sport has its own list, if it's a served list or a database at all. Many faculty have their own list of who they solicit and who they want to talk, who their stars are. So basically, that information is spread a bit all over the place, okay? So in the real world, you got to get yourself a specialized database application. Okay, you're going to have to either do yourself, which it's not my recommendation, or go out and find somebody who does this kind of database. It can be hosted, which we're not going to talk too much because basically it doesn't matter too much about just the policy. Can it be hosted on the cloud, or should it sit in your computer room? I'll basically leave that a bit up to you guys to decide, because simply most of the hosted systems now are fairly safe if you do it properly, but you have to really be careful. Most people, I believe, will put it in-house, okay? And those database has to be able to extract the data in different view. You have to be able to look at different view, how to look at the data. Alumni people are not really usually that much interested about the big donor. They're interested about the alumni. If it happened to be alumni and a big donor, that's good. But they don't want to list a big donor, they want the alumni. The people who does giving, the people who actually go to solicitor, they say, well, I'm going to be in Boston, so I got to be able to extract the file from Boston and say, those are the people in Boston, this is the last time they gave, this is what they gave. They need that kind of information. So you have to be able to extract it very differently. While the annual campaign people wants about everybody who, feasibly or possibly could give us up to, $5,500 or $5,000. So they get a list of 100,000 names. It really depends what their target is. Okay. For us, Razor Edge was selected. It's from Blackbud. I'd say it's a very good product. It pick up the information, it define the bio, it does it by tab, like any most database, and you can enter all the data into the Razor Edge. Okay, I had a demo, but we'll skip at the end if we got time, and then we'll come back and we'll continue, okay? But basically, all the demo was just to show you what the look and feel of Razor Edge, okay? So we're gonna skip to the demo, but the idea is it's a very centric database. What I will probably go through is say, I personally feel that Razor Edge is a very good database to get the data and stuff like that. It is not necessarily the best option to get the data out unless you're a specialized person. If you're a specialized analytical person, you can get a lot of data out. If you're just a solicitor out there trying to get information, it's a bit more cryptic. To be able to be efficient, Razor Edge allows you to define many fields that they call attribute. So at one point you say an attribute is what language does it speak. The other attribute says which award they had, ranking, how much money does it make. So there's tons of attribute. So it makes it more difficult for somebody that comes in to know what are all those attributes, and they're not really the same from one university to another. There's really no standard. It's what you feel you need. It can go from 50 attribute to 2,000. There's no limit on this one. So you can see how difficult it is for somebody who does not get the total vision of this, who doesn't play with it all the time, and says, oh, I just want to graduate in Boston. Sounds like an easy question, but graduate from what year, what faculty, what group, okay? They live in Boston, they're close to Boston. Are they in the city of Boston, 100 kilometers from Boston? You can see the question that can start piling up when they put a question. So you need a group of people who can look at this data, but you still need something to extract the data that makes it more productable. We'll still go back to the data. Data is knowledge, bad data. So we're going back with the same concept. If the data is bad, people won't rely on your database. They won't trust it anymore. You might as well not have it. Okay, you're wasting a lot of effort. So you have to keep that data. There's no way you can keep all the data available. You could if you have this, the university had a centralized database where everybody used the exact same database. It is not the case, I would say, for 99% of us. So we're going back to, okay, in the real world, you're going to need a specialized team. And that's where we get. You're going to need to create a team. It's not something you can do as part-time. It's not something that says, okay, I'm going to take the server guy, and tomorrow for 3 days a week or 2 days a week, you're going to be doing the philanthropic data analysis, and after that, you go back to be a server. And if somebody calls you that they have, the network is down, well, you got to go to fix this first. It has to be a dedicated team. You will not succeed very well in raising large amount of money if you don't have dedicated team doing this. Okay, and it needs to have many interaction with faculty and service. I'm just talking more from the University of Ottawa. Each faculty, at one point, because this was let go to a certain degree, each faculty almost created a bit their philanthropic data, their people that they could go about. So suddenly, you have two things you have to debate in there, is basically saying, well, we need your data because we want to centralize it. And we're not taking your data because we want to take money away from your faculty. Okay, so it's a lot of politics to have to do. That's where you start needing very politically correct people to actually go out, meet those faculty, try to explain to them. You may have to do some compromise that says, if anybody asks a list of your faculty, we will let you know, type thing. But basically we say, if we hold the information, we have the latest information, we have the greatest information, it's better for you if you use our service. It's like a service we're offering also for the faculty. Okay, but you should also have a team of people that actually take care of the soliciting. We have one that we call development. They're totally separate from the faculty, but within the development, they have people assigned to each faculties to be able to make this bridge better. Okay? Buy-in. Okay? You need to have a buy-in. You need to have buy-in above and high enough to say fundraising is important for the university. If you don't have that, you won't have the budget. You won't be able to buy. Those databases are expensive. Okay? They are expensive to buy. They are expensive to maintain. So you need to have some buy-in that people says, yes, we need this. This is crucial. It has to be spoken at the high level. You need to have some sort of hero out there selling this for you. Okay, I have to admit that the University of Ottawa, they took it seriously because it go all the way up to the board, and even the board have mentioned it that fundraising, donor, alumni, is a critical information. It's a critical part of the university. We need this. Okay, we're building many buildings. We have like all university, if you want to get the best talent for teaching, usually those people don't come fairly cheap. You need to be able to have the research facility in place and a budget to be able to run all those research. Normally, student tuition doesn't really go for that. You need to get the money somewhere else. Government grant is one of them. Donor is more and more, less and less government grant. Staff required to update records. We talked about it. You need a group that go and look at the update record. But what we try to sell is record information is everybody's business that works in there. So if you find information that is wrong, let us know. We put system in place to let us know so we could update the information. And staff required to do research. We talked a bit about it. We have a group of people that all they do is research. We tell them, okay, we're interested in those 20 people or 50 people. Go out and find out what you can. They do it from a desk. I ask myself what kind of background they have. Most of them are librarian, which makes sense. They like to sit down, they like to look at things, they like to go through book, go through information, go through newspaper. They have specialized tools that exist. Like I said, most of those tools though are pretty US-centric, but still, the Canadian has the who's list that you should go through all the time. Make sure we also have in the Ontario that they call it the Sunshine List. Everybody that makes more than 100,000, you should go through that one. Any of your alumni on that list. Maybe worthwhile people. So there are lists that comes out. Census Canada came up with the list of where they live, and they actually try to put a value. Like if you live in that Outremont in Montreal, well, we know you're pretty well off. Versus if you live at Saint Denis. So it's that kind of information you try to get and populate into your database. We're going to talk about the protection. Okay, again, it's not an easy thing. It's one of those data that says it's very personal, there's a lot of it, and we need that data to be available on the road because it's dynamic data. So it's not like you can do the report and you go for a 1-month trip because you're going through Europe and you take your report before you go and it's going to be valid for a month. Absolutely not. Some of it will change daily. Okay? So in a perfect world, data never leave the office. We're talking security here. Okay, let's forget the rest. Total pure security, my perfect world. Data never leave the office. So I'm pretty safe. It's never going to end up on a newspaper, never going to end up lost. I love it. I'm great. Okay, it's self-destruct. Once the record has been read, you read the record, bang, it's gone. A bit like Mission Impossible. So if you print the copy, you go in the plane. When it hit the plane, it disappears. I love it, but it probably won't happen. And people have an amazing memory. They can read it once, and that's it. They will never forget. It's not my case. I have to read it many times, and usually a day after I forgot it, I need to go back at it again. Okay? In the real world, people need the data for multiple reasons, and that's what also we have to keep in track. List for analysis before they actually go, what's our target? Who should we go after? They're going to get a lot of lists, got a report. They're going to go through this. The specialized people who take training from cases, from case group to define how do you analyze the data, how do you view the data, how you decide this is the people you got to go after. Okay, we can produce the data, but some group has to analyze that data. List for solicitor or solicitation. Once you decide what it was, you get the list. Say, okay, Bob, here's the list of the people you got to go see. This is the people you got to meet. They're your people. Okay, so Bob has his list. It may be 5 names, it may be 100 names. Okay, I doubt Bob can remember 100 people, everything about them. So Bob's going to need to refresh that list. And as we get more information about those people, we update the database so Bob's got more information to do his job. Okay, list for event. We're doing an event. Any event we have, we're opening a football field at least for us. We want to invite people. Who do we invite for this event? Well, people who gave money to that for that project. Well, all the donors should be invited. Plus people who participate in sports. If it's a football field, anybody who was in a football team should probably be invited. So you need to get that information. So they are not interested as much as how much to give, but who do we invite for this event? Donor profile for meeting. If you're going to go meet the donor, they basically are very focused on that donor. What is this person? I want to know things about this person, but in a format that I can read about it real fast. And I don't have to read a book. It's got to be fast. It's a moving around, and it's dynamic data. And data keep changing. Okay, the fact that you printed the data today, you can come back next week and it'll be different. The person maybe, we realize this person actually changed company now. He works for XYZ now. He doesn't work for, ABC. So that's changed. That your approach will very likely change. Person may move to a new town, so you thought you're going to meet him, but no, this person now live in a different town. You're not going to meet him there anymore. So you need that kind of information. Okay, now we're going to talk about what we do to protect, okay? And we still have lots to go, but I'm just saying what we do now, okay? We put the data in a secure network. I know for the people who talk mobile, which we'll talk a bit later, but a very secure area. Periodical backup, this is the standard thing. This is just basically IT's thing that we should do all the time. You put in a secure area, at least your database is there. You periodic backup, access your terminal service. This is an extra step we put. I don't know if you want to go to that way. But basically, people don't have the application on their desk. They connect to a terminal service. For them, it looks like it's on their desk. They double click on the icon, but they go through a terminal server. It could be a Citrix server, any type of server. The idea is it saved you from having the application straight on the desktop. That's what we were trying to get out. PC drives encrypted. You're never going to be able to stop when we send people to actually download the file on their PC, on their laptop. That's how they do it. They will load it there. But at very least, we're saying that a lot of them has laptop, mobile device anymore, a lot of them PC. We encrypt the hard drive of all the desktop and laptop. People can come in the office and steal device. So at least we feel more confident if somebody does that or loses laptop. We say, well, you know what, unless he can figure out your password, because everybody got to have one, which he could, but it's a tough job. Most people will just rip the drive out of there, shove it into another machine, and just map the drive. If he does that, the drive's encrypted. He's not going to get any data. So we feel a bit better that way, okay? We have access restrictions on specific IP. So basically, if you're outside, we're going to tell you, well, you cannot just start like you normally bring your laptop if you connect to a number. We're going to ask you to go through an extra step, an extra machine, a VPN tunnel, authentication, double authentication sometimes, before you get to the application, before you get to the stuff. It seems a bit more complicated, and we're trying to see that how we can improve that. But at the time that was implemented, this is the vision we had, okay? Most of the output data is stored on a shared drive. We'll talk a bit later, we're changing that, but basically we're saying we store it on a shared drive, so the data is staying within our university, within our realm. That's what we feel. But nobody can stop from copying it and move it out because they need the data on the road, okay? We have training before access the database, the Razor Edge. We're changing a bit our approach on that one. I think we're still going to provide training, but it may not be the best idea that everybody has access to your database. But right now, this is the way it is. So for people to be able to extract information, we gave them some sort of training. So they had to have that training, and they got to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And anytime they ask for a list, they basically have to tell us what they're going to use it for. Are they going to send it to a third party? Are they going to give it to a student? Are they going to solicit money? There's two reasons for this. First, for us to know where our list is moving around. And second, if you're going to solicit money, well, there's a group of development who wants to know who's been soliciting because they have plan. So if a faculty say, I'm going to go solicit all those people, we normally have another group that's going to overlook that and say, or why you're doing it, which approach you're doing, how you're doing this, to make sure that you don't have 5 people soliciting the same person for 5 different projects within the same week. It just doesn't make us look good, because as far as people on the outside, there's the university. They don't care too much about where the data is coming from, okay, the request coming from. Okay, how do we get this data to user securely? Okay, some of it we are in the process of doing, okay, and this is the direction we took. Razor Edge. Razor Edge is on the desktop, and like I explained to you, it works on the desktop. We use client server, but it's a client server approach. I find out it's not really user friendly. You need very specialized people to get all the data out of there. All the data is there, and that's what counts. Okay, but getting it out of there in a vision that a solicitor, somebody who does not have a background in database analysis or stuff like that, could be complex. Okay, so we have SharePoint that came in. This is the tool we decided to go with. SharePoint gives a few things. Basically, we're going to start at SharePoint is accessed remotely. You're going to have SharePoint on the iPad now on SharePoint 2013. You're going to have SharePoint available for all mobile, your iPhone, stuff like that. So SharePoint is getting mobile. The nice thing with SharePoint is the SharePoint sit on our network. So the data is accessible through the network from somebody anywhere in the world, as long as they have access to an iPad or any mobile device. But when he looks at the data stays on our network. But he can look at it anytime, and we know also he's got most of the latest data. Okay. We can set document expiration date. One of the issues you find out we're having is we send a list to a faculty, and 3 years later they use the exact same list, because this person says, I got the list from you guys last time. Why should I ask a new list? I'll use the same one. Okay. This way we can set expiration that we don't really send the list. The list sits on SharePoint. We can also know who accessed the list, when they access the list. Okay, and did they actually took the list out or not? We can control up to that level to say you can look at it, you can do anything you want, but we won't let you save it. Most SharePoint now gives you the ability to run the Microsoft Office. So even if it's a Microsoft Word, Excel, any type of document, when they open it, they'll be open within the web browser. It doesn't download the document on their desktop. It's through a web browser, and it's done within SharePoint. Okay. There's really no need to store the data on a USB. We tried to get out of that one because we're saying, well, if you put it in a USB anyway, your data is going to be adequate, usually within a couple of days. You're going to need to go back, so don't keep storing it unless you really go somewhere you don't have access to a network, which is very unlikely nowadays. And access restriction. Basically, we can say who has access to what when they get to SharePoint using their username and password. So that's where we give the security. That's where we try to get people out. What we start adding, and we're in the process of doing it, is performance point. Like I said, the problem we have with Razor at this point is there's many people who want to look at the data differently. The way they're doing that now is they ask for a report, they ask for a list. That use a lot of resource. We're getting about 700 requests a year to produce lists, report, any type of form. That's a lot of data. And sometimes the data can modify along the way because it's not quite what I wanted. Performance point is a tool that goes well with SharePoint and allow us to create what we call a cube. And in the cube, we put all the data in there. So basically, people will not really need access to Razor Edge anymore. They'll get the data from SharePoint. And from SharePoint, it works like filter. Okay, I'm starting and I says, I want to know all the alumni that live in New York. Okay, here's you got your pad. Out of those now, I want to know how many were a donor. You go to the next step. Now you got another, there's the list of donors. Out of those donors, I want to know how many gave more than $5,000. Here's the next. So you can start to filter down. So, and the filter is really based on the data you have. So it's a bit complicated to build a cube, but after it will make it, very hopefully, a very useful thing for anybody. Because it's web-based, there's not much training. You just filter, right-click, say what your criteria is, this base list of criteria, and go in. The nice thing with the performance point is allow you to do the analytical side. Most database will say, okay, this year you have that much, next year you gave us $500, but this year only got $300. If you want to know how the people who gave you less this year than they gave you the previous years, this you have to extract the data. It just doesn't do it by itself. It's a database. It just stores data. Performance point allow you to do that math. Performance point allow you to do, okay, how many things we had for this appeal and how many of them we raised from this time. So we can do that kind of analytical side of it. We can put that as a new variable. People gave a lot last year, but not this year. We can put that as a variable now, and we can filter on this. So it's a useful tool. All the data is on a SharePoint, what we talked before, so it makes it very nice for us. The protection is there, the value is there. What also makes it nice for us for Performance Point is when somebody finally got the query, okay, we haven't decided 100%, they can just send us the link. They don't need to send us what they want anymore. Send us the link of what you figure out, and we're going to verify using the actual database. Maybe you want to have an official type system that says if it's for soliciting, you can do all of that information, but if it's for soliciting, we still want you to let us know. So we'll provide you the real official list type thing, okay? But the idea is now is when they ask list request, you'll find out that if you played with this, what the person wants and what the person asks is usually two different things. And then you go to them and says, well, that's what you've asked. Yeah, but that's not what I want. And then you have a lot of debate back and forth, okay? And lists are wrong people get solicited, wrong mail get out. So basically this takes a bit of that burden away because the person who want and ask is the person who's actually going to do the search now. It doesn't fall into a specialized person. Mobile device. We have to support them. I think if you went to the quite a few of the session already talking about bring your own device, bring your mobile device. We know it's going to happen. We know you're going to get hit. You can choose to ignore it, but this is a bit like year 2000. It's going to happen whether you want it or not. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. So what it is, the nice thing with going with a COTS product is you don't invent your own apps. We got Blackbaud, who got a mobile apps, which makes it very useful. What Blackbaud did is they did the security within the apps, encrypting the data back and forth. They actually encrypt the data when you're looking at it on your phone. It allows you anytime that you can put a person's ID or person's name. If it's in a database, it's going to pop up a profile. It's going to tell you how much this person gave, who did he give to, where does he live, any relevant information about this person. So before you go to a meeting, mostly for solicitor, they could just type this person's name and they got the latest information. It's really what we want. The data is also very secure. So if he lost the phone or whatever happened, when the person gets that, he won't be able to access the information. The information is encrypted within the device, and on top of that, to get to it, he's going to need a password. The apps is done well that it doesn't allow you to store the password. So basically, when the person's connect, he has to enter his password each time. Yes, there's a bit more difficulty. Yes, it's not as user-friendly as you just get to it, but we try to explain this is the security we need. Awareness of the people who use those devices. I think it was brought up so many times. You have to let them aware that the standard security principle don't really apply that much when you have that device in your hand, because we want to make the access of that information 24/7 from anywhere in the world. There are some restrictions that needs to be applied. Okay. One of the flaws you may say is once you build the apps, you don't get to decide what get displayed. Blackbaud does. The nice thing is they're pretty good at listening to their people and say, hey, it'd be nice if you could have this now on the list of things we can see. And on the next rev, they actually does it. So it takes a bit of what we call the reliability out of your hand, but it has some restriction that it doesn't have the flexibility if you build your own. Okay? But if you start building your own, you better have teams to take care of it and support it. Check in easy apps. It's another type of apps we start to use. And basically what it allows us to do is when we go to an event, the thing that we don't like is events are happening for most universities a bit all over the world. Some will be in Europe, some will be in China, some will be in Hong Kong, United States, and basically carrying your list for each time you go to an event, we find out difficult. People can register at the last minute for an event. If it's in New York, the person print the list. By the time you get there may be 3, 4 more people who registered. So what we're offering as a system now is from an iPad or anything like that, we update the file ourselves into a cloud system. We don't put enough information in there to be restricted. You have to be careful. So we don't put how much money this person gave. It will not be there. If the person wants to find out, get to your phone, get the information another way, or go to SharePoint and get that information that way, okay, or Razor Edge mobile. But it allows you that when you do a check-in, you have the list of everybody that's there. It also allows us that they are, when you do event, the purpose of an event is always to have key person that comes in. You're going to have tons of person, but they are key people that you really want to talk to. This application allows you to send an alert to your solicitor to say, hey, Bob just showed up. You may want to go see him because Bob, you know, he's a big donor here. You want to go shake his hand. You want to make sure there's this human contact there. So this allows us to do that kind of setup with it. It also allows us to say, we did this event. We invited so many people. Okay? So many people registered, but only so many showed up. We can find that information fast. One of the issues we had with the event is the people will go, will do the event, then they come back, and sometimes we don't know who really showed up to your event. People that show up is also as crucial as people who actually register for the event. In our case, a lot of the events are free, which is really a way to attract people. But you still want to know, listen, people will just register, it's free, but how many showed up? So when you do the next time, you do a type event, you say, look, those are the people who show up. They're consistent. So you probably want to put the people who show up to the event a bit higher on your list than the people who didn't show up to those events. Okay, and also keep track of what you do after somebody actually showed up to an event. Do you solicit them? You go talk to them? You have to put this all in practice. Okay, and what we liked with it, it's an easy upload, download from our database, Registrar. So it's an easy to export a list, load the list, and update the list as we go. Because everything is in the cloud, it can be accessible. It removed the paper side where you do list. You can have multiple iPads doing the connectivity and the checking at the same time. It's a very flexible tool, and it's getting more and more flexible as we go with live. It actually allows you to send information for the QR code that everybody has on their badge now. Allow you to send that kind of information, so when they come in, they can just scan, or you can give the name. It's very flexible. When you send the invite, you can use the logo of your university. It makes it, like I said, it's a very useful tool, and it's just a tool for us to try to keep control of the data. So we don't have lists flying around all over the place. We don't have paper all over the place. And actually, it does make it look more slick when you actually go to an event. You are a university. You're supposed to be at la fine pointe de la technologie. And suddenly, you show up with a paper list and a highlighter. Okay, I think it worked, but you sort of lost a bit here. Well, if you have an iPad or a phone, it just look more slick. Okay, and look is very important when you come to this kind of business. Okay, I'm the one who's been doing all the talking now. The future. Any question? Go for it.
In terms of your provincial privacy laws, do you have any challenges with respect to justifying the data that you need to collect, and then not only having it, but for what length of time you can use it, and in gathering active consent from donors and other potential users?
At this point, I think what I've seen for the two sides I've seen is, first is the side of when they give gift. When people give to university, what is a gift? And that's receivable, that you can actually send them a tax receipt. And what is, I'm sorry, you cannot give you a receipt because of this. If you go to an event, we offering you a meal. Well, the meal section cannot be part of the gift. It's something you add. But the other part is part of the gift. So you got to come with all that information. When it comes to payment, which is the other side for event or anything like that, we actually tend to lock down that the payment is done on a system, but we don't keep the data for more than 30 days. And on the credit card, we only keep the last digit.
Well, not so much the financial transactional data donations, but also the gathering in the Raider's Edge, for example. Like, for example, if I was an alumni at your school and I just graduated, you've got information potentially from when I was active at the school and involved in activities. So stuff, my email address, my name, possibly my other details. And then as we have a relationship over my lifetime, you're going to add more to that file, which is the benefits we talked about. How long do you keep that for? Till I pass away?
Even after you're dead, we keep it. we basically keep it forever. There's no reason to delete the record unless you come to us. And even if you come to us and say, I don't want to hear about you anymore, you're really unfriendly for some whatever reason, we're still going to keep the data but code you unfriendly. Reason being that what happened if somebody else pick up your information, put you back on the system, and then you're back on the list. This way we keep the information since you're unfriendly. As far as information, most of this is public. It's not it's not that we went through a back door and tried to get information unsolicited. It's information that's mostly available publicly. It's only the information that we say is not. You going to the University of Ottawa, registering in science is a public information. So it's nothing that is very private. The value of your house, it's there. Who would you work for? If you put it in on LinkedIn, you made it public.
Really interesting. Again, the privacy office that we work with, and we're still very young as a province, can be more robust privacy laws in New Brunswick. It's a little bit more of a challenge on retention schedules and what data you keep and for how long and all that stuff.
Right, we gotta wrap it up.
Yeah, that's that thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So no, in our case, yeah, we chat about the privacy, the restriction law, and as far as we're concerned, most information we have is public, but it's key because university have a certain, it's a bit like a company that says, if you become a client of us, we have the right to get some information about you. University, you were a student, we have the right to have certain information about you. You were one of our students, and it's okay. It's not like we went out and get information. If we did, you gave money to us, we have a certain right to get that information.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Yeah.
Thank you.